Hey there, welcome back. Now let us discuss about how to create an object and talk about its properties as well as how we are going to create methods. First, let's talk about how to create object along with properties. So it's simple, it's a variable. So let's say let, I'm going to call it as user equals to. Now remember, I'm going to call this as user, not users. Why? Well, we are only going to store information of a single person, single user, the name of user, age of user, as well as email ID or any other information, but it will be for one user only. And that's why we are calling it as user. And here I'm going to have open and closing curly braces and then my semicolon. Now inside this, there will be properties as well as the method that we are going to create. Now this happens with the help of key and value pair. All I have to do is give a name to my property, which is going to be name. If you have email, you can call it as email. If you are going to store age, then you can call it as age. Whatever the information that you are storing. Here I am storing name. So I'm going to have name. Then I'm going to utilize colon. And then there will be the value. So for example, I'm going to say Shubham Sharda. Then if I need to add another value, I'm going to say comma, and then I can add multiple values. Now this is known as key and this is known as value. So basically we are storing in the form of key and value. Let's add more details so it's much easier for us to understand. Here the next thing I'm going to store is email. And I'm going to say shubham@gmail.com. The next one will be my age and I'm going to call this as maybe 25. And if I need to add more, just add a comma and here I can add other information. Here I'm going to create is user logged in and by default the user is logged out, so I'm going to call this as false. That's it. So these are the information that I'm going to store. Now why I'm going to use a comma? It's similar what we did with array. So there is bracket, opening and closing bracket, and then I'm going to add a value, comma, add second value, comma, add third value, comma. So if you observe here, what I did is add first value, comma, second value, comma. At this point of time, we have these spaces, so it's easy to read. But if I remove these spaces, everything is still going to work fine. But it's not easy to read. The readability is messed now. We can store something like this and it is going to work exactly the same way. So we have name, our first property, then we have email, and then we have age and so on. So that's how you can do this, but I really want to have a structured way just to improve readability. Now here if you observe, this is the key, this is the value, this is the key, this is the value, and we can store any type of information. This is string, this is number, this is boolean. If we want, we can add more item. Let's say this guy is writing blogs, so I can say blogs. I can create an array and store multiple blogs. But you observe, now we are storing an array. So we can store any type of data that we want. At this point of time, we are just going to play with this information. So it's easier for us to understand. The other thing, we are going to access property in the same way we used to access property for our string as well as for array. You remember dot length? Something similar is going to be followed. But first let me console the user now. And here I'm going to pass user. If I save, you can see I got all the information. And here you can see a small arrow. Let me click this. You can see I got information about age, email, is logged in, and name. And you will get a prototype which we will be discussing later. And this is going to contain certain other information. I'm going to close this one. But this is the information that we stored. Now here the interesting part. If you observe the sequence, it doesn't matter. The sequence in object literals doesn't matter because we are not going to access element by 0th, 1st or 2nd index. Nope, we cannot do that because the sequence doesn't matter. If you remember, in arrays, the 0th position means the 0th position. It cannot mix with any other position. But with users, there is no 0th position. There is nothing like this. If you want any information, just give the name. You want email, just give the key name, which is going to be email. You want age, just give the key name, which is age. So you can directly access element. If you remember, arrays used to be connected with 0, 1, 2, 3. But here we have a key attached to it. So we can do that. We don't need any type of index position. Now let's see how we are going to access information. So I'm going to use console.log, and here if I say user.name, if I save, you can see I got Shubham Sharda. So it's easier for us to access any type of information. Now here we can also update values later on. So maybe we want to update the value for is logged in. Once a user is logged, what we are going to do is we are going to update it as true. So I can do that. All I have to do is go for user and then is logged in, and I just need to set it to true. Let me try to print the result. Before and after. Save. You can see Shubham Sharda logged in is false and then it's true. So we can overwrite values according to our need. Now the other thing is we can access values in a different way also. So I can use brackets. Remember the bracket notation? If we have any type of array, we just used to do bracket and then define the position 0, 1, 2. Similarly, I just need to mention the key if I need name, if I need age or any other thing. And here you can also observe it's a property name and it's currently storing string. So we can do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have console.log. Instead of dot name, I'm going to have open and closing bracket, and here I need to pass the name or any other property that we require. So let's say email, and if I save this one, you can see I'm able to access this. So there are a lot of other things that we can do, but if you have these two, you should use the dot notation that help us to access it directly. But if we have this, then why we have the other type? So if I can access the name with the help of this dot notation, why we have this bracket notation? Well, there is only one simple reason. There are certain times that you take key from the user. What you do is you say key equals to and user provide the key. Let's say let key is equals to and user says okay, get me the name. And what happen is you are going to have name from the user. You don't control this text. If we are taking this from user and user say just give me the key, and if I try to print this key now, let's say console.log, and here if I try to use user.key, now in our mind what we are doing is we are trying to access the key, we are trying to access the name, but for JavaScript it's directly a property. So you are going to get an error undefined because this key doesn't exist here. This key is working as property. So you have a method. What you can do is you can use brackets and here you can pass the key. Now JavaScript is going to replace the key with this and you are going to get the name. That's all. So this works pretty well when you are going to take input from user that what information should I give. So if the user give email, all you have to do is just pass the key and you are going to have access to email, because at the end of the day this key will be replaced because this key is equals to email. So this key will be replaced with email and you will get your result. So this is the reason why we have this bracket notation. But if you know what type of content you want, you can directly use dot notation. If we are taking input from user about what type of information the user want, we are going to play with the bracket notation. I hope you got the idea. Now before ending this lecture, what I want to do is I just want to talk about the type. Let's try to test the type. All I have to do is type of, and I can say user. If I save, you can see it's object. That's it. That's all about the basics of object, and you should know at least these information. In the next lecture, we are going to talk about methods, but now you know about properties, how to override property, how to access certain property, and also how to access property with the help of dot notation as well as brackets. And you are also confirmed with the type. That's all for this lecture, and I see you guys in the next one where we are going to talk about methods.